I was a medical doctor and I couldn't even save my parents. When Brother Roy invited me to do this talk today, he asked me a few questions. And, I looked at those questions and I said, hey, look, how can I answer those questions? One of the important things that he asked me was, what's the topic I wanted to give this presentation? And here, my topic is LifeWave is a path to democratize health and wealth. And that has been my life mission for at least 5 years now. So I'll give you a little bit of background of myself. I'm originally from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So terima kasih, I can speak Bahasa to everyone around who understands Bahasa. And I did my medical degree in India. So I spent a lot of years in India and I learned the culture and the people and they're beautiful people. I went back to Malaysia. And then I started doing a specialty in anesthesia and intensive care. And I had, every day I'm faced with death. I have to talk to families about letting their loved ones go, about pulling the plug on the ventilator. Those are difficult conversations to have. So every day I face a lot of death in my patients. And it made me realize that, hey, allopathic medicine is doing something wrong. We are getting more and more advanced in technology, and yet we're having an increase in the number of people suffering from chronic disease. We're having an increase in death rate, especially since the pandemic started. We have an increase of 15 to 16% per annum in death rate. There's something wrong with allopathic medicine. And that's when I decided there must be a better way. There must be. And so I go out and search for a better way. And that's how LifeWave basically came to me. So a little bit more about my story, why my mission is to democratize health and wealth. My father was a school teacher and my mother used to work for the Malayan Railways back in Malaysia. So they saved all the money they could, just like any normal Asian family. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. They worked very hard. They saved all the money they could so that they can send their 2 kids, me and my sister, to a good university, get a good education, and make a good living. And that's all their intention, so much so that they did not go for any holidays. They were frugal in everything that they wanted to spend on. They didn't spend on themselves. And then I went to India, studied medicine, came back, graduated, and I went and worked at Kuala Lumpur General as an intern. As an intern in Kuala Lumpur General, close to 25 years ago, you basically work 48, 72 hours in a stretch. There's no rest. There's no such thing as labor laws and limits to the amount of work you have to do, so much so that they gave us a hostel room in the hospital so that we can go back and sleep for 4 to 5 hours and quickly come back to the ward and start doing your work. So I still remember this day very clearly in my mind. It was December the 16th. I was really tired. I finished work at 12 midnight. I went back to my hostel room and I found a pile of clothes in the hostel. And I said, I need to go home, get this washed in the washing machine and then bring it back. So I decided to drive home that day and I reached home past 12 midnight. And I was so tired, but my mom told me that my father had been suffering from a little bit of indigestion that day. But when I reached home, I saw that he had gone off to sleep. So the thought in my mind was, when he wakes up tomorrow, I shall bring him to the hospital to see the doctor to get something for his indigestion to relieve him. So I went off to sleep. And naturally, after as soon as my head touches the pillow, I'm out. Suddenly, it was a knock on my door. It was 4:30 in the morning. My mom comes to call me. And I say, what's up, mom? I realize, it's 4:30. I have to get up and go to work because I have to start doing my rounds in the ward at 6 a.m. My mom says, come, follow me to the kitchen. Something is wrong. So I said, okay, what's wrong, mom? So I just followed my mom to the kitchen. At that time, my kitchen was very small. My dining table was a rectangle table that was set flush to the wall. And that morning, I found my father sitting at the end of the table. His head was leaning against the wall. And as a doctor, I knew that my father had arrested. And I mean arrested, meaning his heart had stopped. I and my mom frantically put him down on the floor. I started doing CPR for him. And the moment I did CPR, I can still feel it and you know, it's still the experience fresh in my mind today. I broke my father's ribs while trying to do CPR for him. My sister went to call the ambulance. By the time the ambulance came, we put him in the ambulance. I escorted him to the emergency department at the university hospital. They tried to resuscitate my father for another 1 hour. They gave up, and they came up to me and they said it was too late. My father was classified as BID, BID meaning brought in dead. It was my father's first heart attack. It was his last. And I was very close to my dad. 3 years after that, my mother was diagnosed with cancer of the maxillary bone. I'm sure most of you would never have heard or seen anyone with a diagnosis of cancer of the maxillary bone. She was diagnosed after 6 months of having, you know, frequent runny nose. And finally, when I brought her to see an ENT surgeon, they did a CT scan for her and they found that it was impacted. When they did a biopsy, blood just poured out. It was a diagnosis of squamous cell carcinoma. She underwent a removal of her maxillary bone. She couldn't eat so well. We had to undergo 32 days of radiotherapy. I was basically fetching her back and forth to the hospital. And on the 32nd day, when the radiotherapy finished, we were so relieved, thinking that at least now we could have a break. I still remember it was a Sunday morning. Me, my sister, and my grandmother was cooking downstairs, and I could hear my mother calling out for me. So I ran upstairs and I found my mother sitting on the floor in the bathroom. So I asked my mom, "Mom, what are you doing there on the floor?" My mom said, "I just can't get up. I don't know why." So me and my sister took the blanket, we put our mother in the blanket and carried her literally into the car and brought her to the hospital. They did a CT scan for her and found that the cancer from the cheekbone had gone to her cervical 5 vertebrae. She was paralyzed from neck down. My mother passed away 1 month after the diagnosis. Both my parents, my mom was 60, my dad was 63. And that hit me like a lightning. And I wonder, why is it allopathic medicine couldn't do anything? I was a medical doctor and I couldn't even save my parents. And that's why I went on the mission. And this mission of mine, if you look at my social media, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, I always announce to the world that my mission is to democratize health and wealth. Because I'm sure all 130 of you, if not experienced this yourself, you would have known somebody in your life, your relative, your loved ones, a friend, someone would have suffered from cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, or some kind of chronic illness. And what does that do to the whole family? It makes you sad, right? It makes some families dysfunctional, right? So we have to find a way. What is this way? And that's when LifeWave came and spoke to me. I want to introduce you guys to these 3 wonderful, beautiful souls that came to my life. The first photo there is Cool One. I call him Cool One G. He's like a brother to me. He looks like an angel, all white. I hope he's listening here today because he's actually traveled to Singapore. He's not in Perth with me. But Brother Cool One is a very dear friend. And one day he looked at me and he says, "I need to tell you about this patch." So he introduced me to LifeWave. And he said, the words he said is so significant to me. He said, "You didn't find LifeWave. LifeWave has been looking for you all your life." The second person in that picture is Brother Johnson. Brother Johnson is in Kuala Lumpur. So what happened to me was, as soon as Cool One told me about LifeWave, I had actually had a trip to Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. And that's when I had the honor of meeting with Brother Johnson. He traveled all the way to my place, which is at least a 30-minute drive in the traffic jam, to sign me up to LifeWave. And today, bless him, I thank him for doing that. I hope he's listening in this forum. The third person in the photo is Andrew. And I'm sure Andrew is here. Hi, Brother Andrew. Andrew has been such a beautiful soul. Every time when I have a question and I ask about LifeWave, where am I supposed to patch? How am I supposed to do this? What's the compensation plan? Andrew has always been there for me. And he's shown his leadership to be an amazing sponsor, amazing leader. And I would say if anyone has Andrew in their team, they're really blessed. So these are the 3 people. I just want to say thank you for introducing me to LifeWave. Now, this is another special person. If you look at this photo, everyone knows him, right? If you don't know him, please be aware of this man. He has exhibit a lot of humility. He's so authentic in his work. And he really, you can feel his energy that he really wants to help everyone. And coincidentally, when I look at this photo, if you see, it doesn't say VIP seat here. It says YIP, which is my surname, sit here. And he has done that for me. He has basically asked me to sit by his side, and he has guided me all the way. He's so responsive. Every question that I ask him, he's always responded immediately as long as he's awake, because we've got such a huge 12-hour time difference. But he's an amazing soul. And again, I remind everyone, Jim Rohn says, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with, and you want to hang out with this man for sure. Okay. Can I tell you my journey and my experience now? So when Cool One, the first 3 photos of the people that you met, when they introduced me to LifeWave, what Andrew did for me was he actually gave me the Eon. He said, you give it a try. I was very skeptical. I was thinking, how can a patch without any drugs? I'm an allopathic doctor, remember? How can a patch without any chemicals, without any medicine, without any drugs, do something that is so amazing? So all Andrew said to me was, you just have to drink a glass of water. So Cool One went to get a glass of water. I drank it, and he patched the Eon for me. And I can tell you, it changed my mind. I was suddenly more alert. I could perceive my surroundings with so much clarity. And not only that, I could feel a sense of relaxation in my body. And I can sense that even though I don't have any medical illness, I don't have any medical problems, but I could sense the difference. Imagine what that can do for a person who actually have ailments. And then it so happened, I had a shoulder discomfort from trying to do pull-ups. My goal is to do 5 to 10 pull-ups in one go. I mean, crazy, but yes, that's my goal. And while I was doing that, I injured my shoulder, and Andrew put the ice wave for me. And after a while, within the next hour, I could feel, yes, the discomfort on my shoulder, even though it was very small, started disappearing. I was convinced that this thing works. And the thing that I was convinced is that I need that awareness of what's happening in my body to realize what these patches are doing for me. So the next thing I knew was my cousin gave me a call. Now, my cousin is in Penang in Malaysia. He calls me after so many years of us not speaking to each other. He calls me and says, Cheng Bi, he calls me Cheng Bi. Cheng Bi, I cannot sleep. I'm only sleeping 1 hour a day. I get anxiety attacks. When I go into work, I get so much anxiety that I have to walk out from the meetings. When I go into a shopping mall, the crowd and the people around me gives me so much anxiety, I have to quickly run away. So he was suffering from so much anxiety. He couldn't sleep at night. And that's when I thought, that's a reason why someone introduced me to LifeWave, and suddenly a cousin whom I've not spoken to for a long time contacts me. I must listen to the universe. They're trying to get me to connect both of them. So I sent my cousin the silent nights and asked him, you just try this. I told him the 5 places that he could try patching it on. The next thing I knew, he texts me back on the first night and he says, yes, I fell asleep immediately after putting the silent night on, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I went back to Andrew and asked him, what do I do in this situation? He said, put the Eon patch on him, because the Eon will then be in synergistic in working with silent night to help him to continue the sleep, because his cortisol levels must be so high with his anxiety, so much so that he wakes up and can't fall back to sleep. And I did. So I got some Eon patches and I gave it to my cousin, and this is what he shows me. So on the left-hand side is his sleep. He monitors it on his phone, and you can see that from 1 hour of sleep, it has increased to 5 hours and 53 minutes. Even him was very surprised. And he says, good morning, Chee Bing. Overall, I think it is slowly improving. Yesterday wasn't great, but better than most days, only because I slept later than usual. Technology on our phones is amazing. And that's why he could measure what Eon and what Silent Night has been doing to him. Today, he's back to work as normal. He feels like a normal functioning person, and he loves the product. Now, this is another thing testimonial that I have to tell you guys. So me being a doctor, I've got such a left brain, scientific thinking of how do I prove that this thing actually works? So I had an idea. I decided to test glutathione because as Roy and Rick, every week they tell us that the glutathione patch can increase your glutathione level by 300%. I say, wow, that's such an objective measure. How can I go and measure this objectively? Maybe I can send my blood to the lab, measure my glutathione levels, put the glutathione patch on, and then measure it again to see how it works. But I had a better solution, and this is what happened. I met this person. His name is Samuel. He was introduced to me by a friend of mine. And you know how the universe works when you're seeking, everything just comes to you. So Samuel was introduced to me not long ago. I met up with Samuel. This is his office. And Samuel started talking to me about quantum healing. And he showed me a device called quantum magnetic resonance. This is how the device looks. Basically, it's just a box connected to your computer, and it has a handheld device. And amazingly, this device can measure your glutathione levels without any blood measurement at all. I say, bravo, this is what I'm looking for, an objective measure of how the glutathione patch works. So let me do this test. So I did, and this is the result. The first one, the first chart on the left-hand side, if you look at the bottom of the table is glutathione. My first measurement was 0.203 before I put the glutathione patch on. After that, I put the glutathione patch on just below the navel. And this on the second chart, as you can see, is 1 hour after putting the glutathione patch on. And you can see that the number has increased by 224% within 1 hour. And this was objective proof for a person like me who's so left-brained. So I say, wow, this glutathione patch really works. And if I had measured, I had to leave because it was very late. I think if I stayed there for a little bit longer and continued to measure my glutathione, I'm sure I would have seen continual improvement, probably even hitting the 300% because this was already 224%, probably hitting the 300 or 400%. God only knows, maybe even more. But I wasn't there because it was getting late at night and everybody had to go home. But this was objective proof. So what other proof do we need for that? So as you can see, even with the short period of time I've been with LifeWave, I've been having so many positive confirmations of how LifeWave works. So what is LifeWave? I decided with my left brain again, decided to go and look into quantum healing. And I would say this is a different path in medicine. We have been so reliant on allopathic medicine because that's the way we have been psyched to think that it's the only way to work. It's either drugs that we swallow or surgery that we cut things out. But I want to tell you guys that the new way of moving forward in medicine is quantum healing, not allopathic medicine anymore. We have to use allopathic medicine, yes, as a synergistic effect, because if your vitamin D is low, your omega-3 is low, you still need to supplement that. You need to create the environment for quantum healing to work. So what is quantum healing? Quantum healing is, you know how Brother Roy always at the start, he says there's a disclaimer. We do not claim that LifeWave is a medical treatment, diagnostic treatment. We do not claim all that. And why does he say that? It's because quantum healing is a way to create an environment in your body to allow the basic instinct of our own body to heal itself. I want to tell you something that you might all not realize, that the human body is so amazing. God has given us an amazing gift that our DNA has an innate ability to heal itself. I want you to know that the reason why we don't believe it is because we've not harnessed that ability. We've not given ourselves proof of that ability. It has been suppressed all these years, all these centuries, that has been suppressed. And quantum healing, what it does is it creates an environment for us to eliminate all those external toxins, the external radiation, EMF waves, all those things that we are bombarded with in everyday life, to allow our DNA to express itself and to allow our DNA to undergo that innate healing that we need. And because LifeWave does that to our energy, our chi or our chakra, as some people call it, it creates that environment that allows our own DNA to repair itself. And that's why for some people, you'll find that the effect of pain, like in Brother Rick, the effect of pain was immediate. But in some people, it will take 3 months, 6 months, or even a year or two. We don't know, because it's really reliant on your own body's innate ability to heal itself. And as Brother Roy said, in some people, if the pain doesn't go away, you must think, do they have chronic problems? Do they have diabetes? Do they have, toxins in their body? Do they have other things in their body? And maybe they need to do a detox before LifeWave can actually do its healing process. Provide that quantum healing for the own body to heal itself. So that's why sometimes you see the effect immediately, and sometimes you see the effect after a while, because again, we're relying on your own body's innate healing powers, and that everybody is at a different stage where their body is with the ability to heal itself. So I hope that that's quite clear. Okay, I want to close with this very quickly because I know we're running out of time. What is the criteria? Give it time, give it awareness, give it your consciousness, and have the belief that it works. And I want to close this by what Brother Roy and Brother Rick have always emphasized. This is my motto for life. You get everything you want in life when you help many others get what they want. Put them as a real priority. And this is by the late Zig Ziglar. I want to thank you all for the time given. I empathize with you guys, and I really salute all of you, though you're not doctors and you're trying to help the doctors change their mind. Even I'm having difficulty talking to my colleagues, so hats off, I salute you guys to try and change. Remember, there's a point of inflection where everyone will believe, and there's only 18% of the world. If 18% of the world believe in what we're doing, that's really a point of inflection when we'll grow exponentially. And that's proven in science.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Yip. I was so amazed by your presentation, really.